I'm just so grateful for Chuck and Hannah being here tonight. They just have the most incredible hearts, which I think is even like just as important and powerful as their healing stories. Um, and so they founded the Living Hope Cancer Foundation, which is an absolute labor of love and faith, and to help people with cancer overcome what they have overcome and are thriving through. So thank you so much for being here. My brother and sister, would you like to start with, well, first Chuck was diagnosed with cancer. So how did cancer enter into your lives?
Well, in 2015, I was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, and I was told by a team of doctors that I had 3 months to live. There's a lot more to this story. And I think that's why I ended up writing the book, because there was just so much that I kept skipping over, and people were like, what about this and what about that? But, I started getting sick, and I was managing it with aspirin. And then the last couple of weeks, the aspirin wasn't working. I pretty much took my boys out to eat on Friday night, got home, watched a movie, couldn't get comfortable on a couch, on the chair with pillows. And when my boys went to bed, I went to the nearest emergency room here in Phoenix, Arizona. And they started running some scans and some x-rays and stuff to try to figure out what was going on and why I was having so much pain in my back. And the fastest thing that comes back is just a regular x-ray. And the x-ray, and the doctor came in and says, this is interesting. You got 2 fractured vertebrae in your back. And I'm like, wait a minute. What do you mean? How does a person walk around with a broken back, let alone how did it happen? I haven't fallen or anything, right? And so she said, well, it's pretty common. So there's going to be, more scans coming back, and I don't want to mislead you. So we're going to wait till the rest of the scans come back. So at 5 a.m, I had an emergency room doctor walk in, shut the door, and sit down with me and look at me in the face and say, I got bad news. It's all cancer related. And you guys can imagine what starts going through your mind. What kind of cancer? How bad is it? What's this mean? The next thing that comes with the word cancer is, is this a short journey? So basically, the doctors brought in some specialists. The specialists started getting into the biopsies, the bone marrow, lymph nodes. I got to go home for 3 days. Everybody knew I had cancer. I started letting people know I had cancer, just didn't know how bad it was. And I got called in 3 days to go into the doctor's office, shut the door, and he looked at me and he says, I don't know how you're walking around. He says, I've never seen anything like this before in my life. The scans came back, the biopsies came back that, first of all, it was so bad we couldn't find out where the origination was, where the cancer actually started, because there's so much of it in your body. And he says, it got in your bone marrow, and the bone marrow carried it all over your body, and you got cancer in 90% of your bones in your body. 90% of the bones in your body. That's why he was sitting there looking at me like, how did you even walk in here just now? And he says, you're at stage 4. He says, you got about 3 months to live. Go home and spend time with your family. And so I went home, head spinning, had to tell my 2 high school boys that I was diagnosed, or they knew it was cancer, but that, their dad was very sick, and they told me I had 3 months to live. It was a nightmare, an absolute nightmare, emotional, head spinning, confusing, shock, everything, confusion. So what happened was I said, if I've only got 3 months to live, I'm going back to Ohio and spend time with the people I love. My family's all in Columbus, Ohio. So I said, I'm going to go back and hang out with my mom and dad and my brothers and sisters. So I said, okay, if I'm moving back, I'm not packing up my stuff. I'm not moving my stuff across the country if I'm melting away. So I gave away everything I owned. And to me, thinking about it now, what a lesson. How important is all these things sitting around us, my leather couches and my flat screen TVs and all this material stuff that I grinded and I worked my tail off and weekends and didn't see my family to acquire these things. And I'm diagnosed with cancer, and this material stuff means absolutely nothing. I gave it all away through the whole week. And on Saturday, we stayed at a resort here in Phoenix because the next day me and my boys were going to fly out. And that next morning I got up and to go down the hall to go to the bathroom, and something popped and I hit the floor. And the only way I can describe the pain is it felt like somebody was stabbing me with a knife in the back and running it up to my head and back anytime I budged, if I budged. Okay, now think about taking a breath. Your whole diaphragm, your whole body moves. I couldn't even take a good breath. I was scared to move. I was there 12, 13, 15 minutes waiting for the fire department. Then they had to get me on a gurney. And then they had to get me down some steps. And then they had to get me in an ambulance. And they had to get me out of this little mountainy range over here called Tapatio Cliffs. A beautiful area, except when you got a broken back. So I suffered a spinal collapse. My bones were damaged, called metastacism. And in the pelvis, in the spine was the worst areas. And my spine just got to the place where it said, guess what? I can't hold you up anymore. And it popped and I hit the floor. So they get me over to another hospital here in Phoenix called John C. Lincoln Hospital. The John C. Lincoln Hospital actually started running their own scans and seen my discs from all the other scans I had. And they said, we want to fight this. And I said, okay. I said, well, that's a huge change from, what I just went through this past week, because hospice nurses showed up at my house and were sitting on my living room couch in tears and just freaking out because of I couldn't believe what was going on. I just turned 50. I was melting away. I was down 35, 40 pounds. My spine collapsed. Other things started shutting down in my body because I was dying. And I was very, very, very pale. And if you've ever worked with cancer people, when they start getting that look, it just scares me because I've seen it. I seen it in the mirror. So I basically, they said, we want to do a couple of surgeries tomorrow, and we want to start chemo the next day and try to fight this. And I said, hey, a fight's a fight. Let's go. So I went into 2 surgeries, and they were back to back. And I was back in the recovery room. And I woke up and I'm watching them getting other people ready for their surgeries. And the 2 docs came out separately and told me about my surgeries went perfectly. And the nurses brought me water and said, you're going upstairs a little bit to see your family. And as I'm watching everything going on around me, I get a chill. And it's almost, it wasn't like a normal, but my first thought was somebody just opened a door at the end of the room. And it was a weird bone chill though. It was like just frigid. Just straight into me. And as I scrunched up and looked around, when I looked to the left, I did a double take and Jesus is standing there right next to me. And I'm just looking at this beautiful brown robe with this white scarf, his beard, his face. And I see his right hand reach out and touch me on the shoulder and he's gone. And not for one split second did I ever not think I was in the presence of Jesus. I didn't think it's a doctor, it's a nurse. I was in the presence of Jesus. And then I don't know if I heard this in my head. I don't know if he said this, but I remembered, I got you. And he was gone. 3 seconds, 4 seconds. So I'm flipping out. I'm flipping out.
I'm
You're
not
the first one.
I get chills when I tell the story. It's that crazy. It's that crazy. And I'm thinking, is he coming to take me with him? But I'm still here. I'm still laying there. They're getting me ready to go upstairs and see my family. And they wheel me upstairs and I tell my family and they're all in tears and nobody can understand what's going on. And the next day, and if you've been around cancer people, anybody going through any type of injury, that spinal collapse sent me not only on pain meds, but I was on liquid morphine. And if you know anything about liquid morphine, it goes right into the body. And about every 3 to 5 hours, I was like, I need something else. And another little shot of liquid morphine. That's how bad my pain was. I get up the next morning, the nurses come in and they start giving me my drugs. They're like, time for your drugs. Here's your steroids for shrinking the tumors. And here's your bone strengtheners. Now, your pain meds are as needed. So on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, how bad's your pain right now? And I'm laying on this bed and I hit the button to move me up and I've got a brace fitted for me. It's like a turtle thing, plastic thing, but it's got Velcro straps. I strap it on. I sit and look at him and I'm like, I don't feel any pain. And they're looking at me like, you just had surgery yesterday. You just suffered a broken back. Here's the nurse button. Call us as soon as it starts up, and it will, because we don't want it to get too crazy. From that day 5 years ago to this second talking to you guys right now, I've never touched another pain med. The pain went away. There's
That's
no
incredible.
explanation. There's no,
That's a
you know,
miracle.
even if it was just the broken back, or if it was, you know, all the melting down of the body and everything I was going through, the pain was excruciating the day before, and now I'm not on any pain meds. I took 2 grocery bags full of pain meds to the fire department near me to dispose of them.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I knew something amazing was happening. I was in that hospital for 10 days, and I started having little conversations. You know, I would say I had a spiritual belief, but I wasn't the strongest walking with Christ Christian dude that you ever met, you know. I was not necessarily in church on Sundays, but I did like to go. I loved the message when I went. And I'm a hiker, so I wake up on Sunday morning, I might be out the door and out in the mountains somewhere watching the sun come up. But I honestly I believed the entire time that Jesus is the Son of God, and he was put here to save us. I did not doubt that. And so at this time I had laying in the bed looking at the ceiling, what's your plan for me, God? What's your plan for me? Well, we start having conversations, and I start hearing things that I just was like, what? One morning I got up to walk in the desert right outside the hospital, and I asked him, I said, is it a long journey, a short journey? And I hear, you've wasted so much time in your life, and you're going to get it all back little by little. And as you do, I want you to focus on what you're truly passionate about. I was like, what was that? I start having conversations with God and messages from God. And before I left that hospital, I was there for 10 days. In my head, I knew I wasn't going to die of cancer.
Wow.
I
That's
still
incredible.
had to go through 6 months of chemo. I still had to nurse a human body that had melted down. I'm looking at my legs like, whose legs are these? This is not Chuck. You know, this is not me. I melted down, and the spine area, the back didn't hurt where the back broke, but the core area all around it, I still feel it once in a while. This past couple of days, I felt when I got up in the morning, it was just reminded me of what happened. So I started helping people all over the place because of my story. I couldn't shut up about it, and went through 6 months of chemo. And as I was going through my chemo, the doctors were like, "What is going on with you? Never seen anything like this before in our life."
Wow.
3
When
months
did
into
you?
Go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah. I was going to ask you when you were officially declared cancer-free.
I haven't been.
Oh, you have? Okay.
No, they won't.
Oh,
My cancer was
that's
so
right.
bad. My
Yeah.
doctor said, and I said the same thing. I said, okay, is this in remission? Is it cancer free? And my doctor said, I'm sorry, I will never, no doctor will put a label on you if they look at your scans and your tests. No doctor would ever put his name on, I'm in remission or cancer free, because of how bad it was, because of modern medicine and case studies and things like that. They go by the average guy, 50 years old, all that stuff. But I told my doctor, I'm not the average guy. So you got the wrong dude. You got the wrong dude. Yeah.
We need to find a
So,
doctor who will do that and document it, you know, share it with
yeah.
people.
And if not, guess what? It's a great story,
matter.
because I mountain bike, I mud run, I surf, I do anything I want to do. I landscape in 110-degree heat for 6 hours, and I do stuff that probably 99% of the people do not do in this world. I push myself.
Yeah.
I push myself because I ask God, hey, what am I going to do with this? And he says, you're gonna share your story, and you're gonna touch people's lives. And so I probably push myself even a little bit more, because I want to, look what, I just jumped on a mountain bike and rode 14 miles, something crazy that most people are like, I can ride probably 2, but I'm not doing 14. I want to be that guy that went through stage 4 cancer and had a miracle happen and prove to people that, my God is an awesome God, So through the 6 months of chemo, they started looking at my numbers. 3 months into the chemo, they were already like, never seen anything like this before in our lives. Your blood tests are almost like a normal, healthy guy. At the end of the 6 months, they couldn't find cancer cells
That's
in the
incredible.
body. Now, it's not that they can't say, they might be hiding out where that bone was damaged or somewhere in there. So they couldn't find any in the scans, but still they said, it could be hiding out in there. They're very small cells. And if something, they stopped my testosterone. One of the surgeries was stopping my testosterone. If testosterone gets back to these cells, they can start growing again. And to this day, they will not let me take a supplement. They will not let me do any type of, hormone therapy. It's just Chuck, just the Holy Spirit, man. I don't need no testosterone if you got what I got rolling,
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm going to add one more part of that story. Was at the end of that 6 months, one of my favorite parts of the story happened. And this blows me away. And I'll tell you what it reminded me of. But they said, we can't find any cancer. And I said, well, I'm going to sign up for a mud run. And I got my mountain bike out and I greased up the chain, and my doctor's freaking out like, no. So they're like, you're down for a bone scan. And the bone scan, it's going to tell us your density and, what's going on with your bones. And maybe you can do some things. We don't know yet, but we want to wait till you get the bone scans. So I go down for these bone scans, and it's a bone cancer specialist and her assistant. They run me through the scans. They're looking at my scans on the screen, and they're flipping through the screens, and they're talking, and they're looking back at me. And then they go, can you see the screen? And I'm like, sure. But I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what this is. It's a skeleton, And they go, well, scoot up here. We want to show you some things. They said your spine and your pelvis was the worst areas, because what they found out through a lot of the tests was it was prostate cancer. It started in my prostate, and I let it grow for a long time. I call that the male mentality, I'll be okay tomorrow, but it got worse and worse and worse and worse. So it was prostate cancer, and it did start, and then it goes towards fed, and it went into the pelvis area, went into my spine. They said, let's zoom in on some of these bones. And they zoomed in on the bones, and they look at me and they go, if we didn't know you and we didn't see your previous scans, we would think you're an absolute liar. Your bones are perfectly clean.
That's incredible. Do you have copies of all your scans?
Yeah, I have them right here. I mean, it's just Simon Med is the organization that does the scans. And then somebody said, hey, they're your scans, so ask for a copy. So every time I left, I go, I need a copy. Oh, it's going to take 5 minutes. And then they come out with a disc, and I've got them right here. It's insane. You can read what the doctors said as far as the cancer in 90% of the bones. Some of the stuff's crazy, right? And I walked out of that office in Tempe, Arizona, and I walked across the parking lot, and all I could hear was, Lazarus, come out. Lazarus, come out. I was the dead guy. I was melting away. I was planning, a short journey, and all of a sudden they can't find anything wrong with my bones or anything in my body. It's so emotional. I still get weird about it, but it was such a life changer that I couldn't shut up about it. I don't care if I was at a coffee shop, grocery store, gym, anywhere. I made this little 30-second commercial of my story, and I wanted to share it with everybody I could. And I started sharing it all over the place, and people started calling me. I all of a sudden became the cancer dude, like on Facebook and on Instagram and all, everybody around me. And if someone was diagnosed with cancer, you got to call Chuck. So I started getting calls from all over the country, and eventually got calls from all over the world. I'm getting calls from India, South Africa, Australia, Ireland. So it's that crazy. And so I made a little card that said cancer coach. I'm like, I'm helping people with cancer. And at first I didn't like it. I said, man, this is tough. I'd hang up the phone after telling my story and telling them a few things that I did to get through their journey and to help them out. And I would hang up the phone and start bawling. I would start crying, and I was like, God, I don't want to do this. This is terrible. I'm dealing with cancer people and their families, and they're going through pain, and it's scary. And God just keeps saying, keep going, keep getting better, keep getting stronger. And I did. And so another thing,
what was it that gave you the strength? Your faith in God, and God gave you the strength? Or
the most human, just like Jesus walking the face of the earth and doing miracles so that humans will believe. Because you sit there and you hear a story, that's a pretty good story, but I don't know. If you see somebody, that was blind their whole life, that couldn't walk, that, if you see miracles and then it opens up your eyes, right?
Mhm.
And when I was going through this journey, I said, God, if you can do that, you got my attention now. You got my attention. And not only do you have my attention, but my whole life did my own plan. Chuck's plan is pretty good, made enough money to, raise my kids and have a house and have a car. And then God started saying, I've got a plan for you that is so amazing, but you got to listen to me. And I said, hey, if you can do this, you've got my attention. I'm going to let God completely orchestrate my life. Okay. So I'm putting my faith to the test. And I'm not kidding you. The most amazing, beautiful things started to happen. The most amazing, beautiful people walked in my path. The most amazing, beautiful things happened almost daily. And when the first few months up to the first year, I would go home and I'd get ready for bed and go, can you believe what happened to me today? And now it happens to us all the time.
We say it to each other.
We don't even question it. It's God's plan.
Yeah.
It's God's plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
So my cousin, go ahead.
Oh, when did Hannah come into the picture?
Yep.
Late last summer.
So late last summer, and here, I'm going to let her talk if she wants to talk, but she's going through her cancer spread just recently in the last 3 months. And the nodes paralyzed 50% of her vocal cord. So her voice is softer. And in the morning, it's not too bad, but as the day progresses, it gets a little bit softer. So I'm going to let her talk a little bit. But my cousin told me that she had a friend that had stage 4 breast cancer that was living with it, doing pretty good, and also writing a book, and was trying to learn how to self-publish a book. And my story got so crazy over the last couple of years that I wrote a book called Hi, I'm Chuck, and it's out on Amazon. And I said, I'd love to help her. When we met, it was one of those blessings that God had planned for me when I got my stuff together. You know what I mean? So that person that my cousin introduced me to is now my wife. And I'm going to let her talk as long as you want to talk, and just tell me if you want me to take over.
Well, I want to tell you that we got married January 1st. So that way you're not wondering the whole time. This past January. So we've been married for almost 8 months. Wow.
Can I tell them about before the marriage?
Sure.
So we met, we started having coffee, and I was just listening to her story and just looking at her glow and her smile. And I was like, I am completely falling in love with this girl. Because I'm building a ministry now. I'm building a ministry. And my dating over the last couple of years hadn't been too good. You got to find somebody that is running towards God, or it's hard. It's hard. It's tough to make it work. And I meet this girl that's running towards God like I am, and I'm blown away, right? And so I had a landscaping business. And so I was still taking landscaping jobs, but I started advertising for landscaping jobs around where she lived. And then I would come over and have dinner, and I'd say, well, I'm going to go back to Gilbert, which is 45 minutes from here. She goes, well, you can stay here, just so you know one thing. This is my room. That's your couch. She said, are you clear? And until we're married, that's my room, that's your couch. And I said, absolutely. And for 3 months, I slept on her couch.
Yeah, I had my 2 sons living at the time, and then one of them moved out. But so we always had, people in the house.
That's awesome.
But would it be really, just walking in our faith if we were, dishonest, with each other or with people around us. And we a lot of times we don't know why things happen, like sleeping on a couch, but to tell a group that maybe some younger people that are sitting there like, you what? I slept on her couch for 3 months. I just promised that.
She likes to say, kept the honey for the honeymoon.
I saved the honey for the honeymoon. So we got married January 1st. Hannah wanted to start the year out, which was a blessing because of, one too many months after that coronavirus started. But we were thinking maybe March. I'm glad she said January 1st because it started us down that road.
Yeah,
So
he didn't really like the couch very much for 3 months. Could you imagine 5 months? His back did not handle that. So my cancer journey starts 4 years ago next month. it was 2016. The beginning of the year, my husband of a little over 21 years just dropped the bomb that he was leaving me. And I had 4 sons at the time that are all teenagers. And it just shocked me, and I literally wept for 3 months. We didn't have a great marriage, but it was like such a shock for me that I never saw it coming. And so I literally cried for 3 months, and then I found a lump, and I was like, I'm a nurse by profession, and I was like, it's probably just a cyst. I'm gonna sit on it for a little while and see what's gonna go on if it goes away. And it didn't go away, and just get that nagging thought, like, I've got to get this checked out. So I did. It took a little while to be seen, and I finally did and got diagnosed in August. And then it started moving pretty fast. So I was diagnosed stage 3 breast cancer. At the time was triple positive. And if you don't know, breast cancer has a couple different variations, and it changes your treatment. So at the time I decided just to do surgery and not do chemo and radiation. I'm really crunchy by nature. Love to avoid medication as much as possible. And, I've been like eating organically and exercising, and pretty much like learning how to do that in Phoenix is a whole other story. But I was pretty active. So like I had a healthy lifestyle for the most part. And so everybody, when they found out, were like completely shocked that I even had cancer, because it would be the last person they thought of. So in October, I had my surgery, and my divorce went through in September. So October, I had my surgery, and I had to go back to work because I had to support the kids in November. And so I got offered a full-time job at my surgery center that I was working at. So about a year later, so I was doing some natural high vitamin therapy just to support my immune system. And about a year later, all of a sudden I had a scan, and all of a sudden everything just like blew up, where it was a whole bunch of nodes in my chest and in my lungs. So then I got diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. Went on a different medication. It was an oral pill because my cancer changed again. So I was eligible to take an oral medication, which I was on for about 2.5 years. So I was stable. Sometimes I had no disease, and sometimes it just stayed stable, which apparently is the goal of doctors. They don't want to cure you. They want to, just keep you alive.
A couple more months.
That's
or another
basically
year.
it. Yeah, as long as they can extend your life. So I kind of had that mindset, like, I'm just going to try to stay alive as long as possible, live the best, healthiest lifestyle I can. During that time, my best friend also took her life. It was about a year after I got diagnosed. I was in another relationship with a man, and he just dropped me like a hot potato. So I had a lot of loss in about a 2.5-year time span that really undid me.
And your job.
Yeah, and my job. Lost my job.
Well, she was going through cancer treatment, so she got tired. She's an operating room nurse, and they work long hours.
Yeah.
And the treatment caught up with her, and she just couldn't do it anymore. So the reason why I'm jumping in here is because this is the mind-boggling thing that blew me away when I met this young lady. She told me of 5 huge losses. And I'm sitting there looking at her, and I said, let me tell you something. I said, I deal with cancer people every day. And once you start chatting with them, hey, Chuck, I went through a nasty divorce a couple years ago. I didn't see coming. I lost, my husband, my wife, my mom, somebody that was so dear to me that I still am not over it. I deal with people, and they tell me maybe 1 or 2 things that hit them in their life that got them so far off track that they may never, ever get back to where they started. The reason why this is very important, and because it boggles my mind, I meet her, and Hannah's got a smile, and Hannah's got a glow, and Hannah's beautiful, and other people see it too. They tell us when she walks into church, when she walks, man, Hannah's got this glow. And I'm watching her, and I told her, I said, how do you do it? How do you go through 5 of the most ridiculous challenges in your life and still have a smile and a glow? And she said, every time something happened, I got closer and closer to Jesus. I said, I love you. Will you marry me?
You did. You actually asked me a few times before we met in person.
Oh my
Yes.
which is really
goodness.
fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and I
So-
mean, but think about it, you know, I mean that is like, wow, you know, her walk, which when she walked into places, they said she had a glow. And one of her best friends said, I wish I could be like you. You wear your faith like skin. You just see it. Became the title of her book, which is the shirt she's got on right now,
That is so
Yeah.
awesome.
Faith Like Skin.
Beautiful.
Think about it, guys. How many of us want, look at that.
Shameless plug.
There we
Yes.
go.
Here's
that-
Chuck.
That's
Here we have them
so
together.
cool.
Hi, I'm Chuck.
There's me and my
It's
boys.
really easy to remember.
Yeah.
I did a speaking event for American Cancer Society, and my sash says survivor, and my two boys, Chucky and Dante, have on caregiver. And
Aw.
I love the picture so much. I said I want that to be on the cover of my book. And then
Mm.
on the back, I'm doing a speaking event at a church in Huntington Beach,
Oh, awesome.
and my dog is right there.
Oh, that's so cute. That's so cute.
That's the back of my book. That way, this is before Hannah. I wrote my book and published it. So it was me and my boys and my dog Jax.
Yeah, and it's funny because my picture's from our honeymoon.
Actually,
And
I
that
took
is
this picture.
so beautiful.
I took this
Oh
picture
my
of Hannah,
gosh.
Back when I had hair.
and then we loved it so much that when the cover design started coming out, we used that picture. Yeah.
That is so cool.
So yeah, so kind of
Love it.
interesting. Like, you know, we kind of had the story together. Like, you know, at January we came home from our honeymoon. Had a lot of discussions because we saw each other all day, every day before we got married, even. And so we kind of both crafted our story together. And then there's more that happened, which we'll talk about after that in January. But I wanted to talk about my story still. That like the last 12 weeks have been so different for me. Like there's been so much change, starting with a broken neck. So like when he's talking about, you know, somebody stabbing him in the back, my neck broke because I had a tumor in my C6.
Right. And
That
just so
was
everybody knows,
in
her
so much
cancer
pain.
started spreading again 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So that's what she's talking about now. The change. So we were jamming, we were biking, we were hiking, we were enjoying life, you know, walking on the beach. And all of a sudden, this pain in the neck got worse, and her scans came back that the cancer had spread.
So that was in April. And
This
then,
is just recently.
Yeah. So I had so much pain. I was throwing up from it, like just violently throwing up from the pain. Ended up in the ER with emergency surgery. And you could see my scar, one of many.
Yeah.
And so they had to put a cage in and fuse my C5 through 7. And because of that surgery where they move your esophagus, I started having some swallowing problems because I had to eat only soft food, and just changes a lot of stuff there. And then because they took the tumor out and they like biopsied it, it changed the cancer again. It changed, which is really rare. I mean,
This is the
Absolutely.
third time.
so
Yeah.
we changed my treatment plan again, and the only thing they could do was chemo radiation. Like there was no other treatment for it.
They were freaking out. They were scared, and they were said, let's
Yeah.
throw everything we can at this because of it just went to triple negative breast cancer.
So, you know, I know the statistics. I like to believe I'm not a statistic. I don't live that way. But
Absolutely.
it did like go, okay, I have to do this. Like I don't feel like at some level I don't have a choice. It's really fast growing. And there was also a tumor pressing on my pulmonary artery and airway, which was causing my heart rate to spike. Just walking, it would be 120. I level out, like it's 118 right now, just sitting here talking to you. That's kind of my normal now, which is kind of crazy.
It's crazy.
But I would have such airway problems that I'd double over walking. So I had to do something. And then the other thing is I started losing my voice earlier on in February. It was like the first sign, but we just didn't know what it was. So we went to a lot of doctors before I finally got insisted on a CAT scan and had the results to tell me there was stuff going on. So yeah, they kind of threw everything at me at once. And normally you don't do chemo and radiation at the same time. And they were like, just start everything at once. And so the radiation on my chest actually burned my esophagus, gave me really bad ulcerations. Took me about 3 weeks in and out of ERs and hospitals to finally convince them that I really couldn't eat and swallow food properly. There was something going on, and they finally figured it out. And I had to get a feeding tube 7 weeks ago.
They put a feeding tube in through her belly because she got to the point where she couldn't even swallow her own saliva. It burned that bad. And they put a feeding tube in through her stomach. And at that point, she was down 26 pounds. So I'm watching my wife sitting next to me, a guy who is around cancer people every day and understands this completely, watching my wife melt, and I was a mess. I was a mess. And they put the feeding tube in, and it took about 2 weeks. Her body started regulating, taking in the nutrients, and she gained 1 pound, and I went crazy. I put a post on Facebook. Hannah gained 1 pound. You know, it was
wow.
everybody went
Everybody's
crazy.
so happy. We had so many people supporting us. It's amazing.
Yeah.
He's got a huge, like 5,000 followers, and then I have all my friends and family, and so just the amount of support was unbelievable. But thankfully, feeding tube, we named it Tubi, came out yesterday.
Yesterday.
We will be eating more.
And now she's eating food.
Softer. I'm just learning what I can eat. You know, just being smart about it.
I would say that you know, a lot of times when we're going through really tough things in our life, we just are like, God, where are you? Well, this is part of God's plan. This is part of God's plan. So we meet and we sit down and we got married and we put our desks together and we started our nonprofit Living Hope Cancer Foundation. Well, I already had a couple thousand, 1,000 people, 5,000 on my personal page. People following us started coming in from different places and stuff. Then we started doing these little live coffee chats on Friday to talk about cancer and how scary it can be, and then give people like the get off the ledge type thing, and even some juicing recipes and essential oils and prayer. And we talked about everything, right? Well, we were so excited because after a few of them, the first one I think was like 500 or 600 people. And then they started going to like 1,200 and then 1,500. They got to like 2,000. We were going crazy, like, wow, we got 2,000 people watching our live, right?
Yeah.
So this is interesting how God works, because then the coronavirus starts and everybody's stuck at home. Then Hannah's cancer starts spreading, and we're totally transparent so that this can help anybody watching it, right? And our little crazy lives went to 12,000 people watching them when we do them. We don't do them every Friday like we used to, but about every 2 weeks we do one. And you get 11 or 12,000 people watching our lives. It's that crazy. And that kind of reminds me of, you know, they closed down all the churches because of coronavirus. And I know pastors all over this country, and they're like, you know, Chuck, I had 500 people coming to church on Sunday, and now I have 5,000 watching my live on YouTube on Sunday. You know, I mean, from 500 to 5,000. And that's what I think, you know, I'm pretty sure it's the same thing with us. Part of this God's plan. You know, some of the bigger churches, you know, I'm a big fan of Steve Furtick. And so his church, Elevate, out there in North Carolina, went from a couple thousand people to like 30,000 around the country watching, or around the world watching his lives. And same thing happened to us, from a couple thousand to thousands. And then when Hannah's cancer started spreading, the number of people watching this girl and praying for her is astronomical right now. Just unbelievable, so beautiful and so amazing. And if you believe in the power of prayer, imagine if there's a huge army praying for you. That's what we have right now.
Yeah, it's pretty humbling. It's really phenomenal. And that's church to me, you know. It's like people gathering to bring each other before God's throne. It's really amazing. So that's been just trying to also live transparently while I'm going through this. I didn't show every little detail, but that's just something that we've been trying to do. And it's been interesting. So we even videoed me shaving my head, him shaving my head and me shaving his. And seeing how people responded to that. And that's really where people started to really follow along. I feel like
I did a little time lapse. I set up the camera and did a time lapse. I shaved her head and then she shaved mine. So a time lapse crunches together. So it took like 25 seconds, you know, just zipping around and shaved. And then we gave a hug at the end. And I put it on a couple different social medias, and there was like 8,000 people watched it. And we were like,
whoa, that was the first time we had
that's amazing.
And we were like, okay, this we need to be real, through this. It's okay to cry, you know, and let people feel the emotion. And because I think that's so important. You can't go around pain. You have to go through it. And for us, going through it is with God, and He's given each other, you know, in our lives to go through this stuff. to hold each other's hand. And yeah, so that's been like really neat to do that out loud. Like I want to live my faith out loud in front of people. And it doesn't mean it's easy every day. It's hard. Like I've never been through so much physical pain as I did when I was going through especially the esophagus stuff. And it brought me really low. I know I was sharing with you this morning when we talked a little bit. But like God taught me how to praise him. And like when I started thanking him for all the other things I had, it totally changed my whole emotion and my heart and the way I looked at life. So I'm learning a lot of lessons. Like I thought I had a lot of loss already, but now I'm like, I've lost the ability to sing. That's my favorite thing in the world. And food. Like I'm a foodie. I used to have a food blog and I have a food Instagram page, and that's my real big thing that I
just went 7 weeks where she couldn't enjoy food. It's just it's these challenges, and we know that God doesn't waste any of this pain. This is for a specific reason. And so, that's why we live it transparently, and we want people to watch us. We know we're influencing a lot of people, but it's the ones that maybe send a message, and maybe we'll message back with them, or maybe even on Messenger now you can hit call, and I'll call somebody anywhere in the world, and they're like, "Is this really Chuck?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we've been chatting, and I just felt a need to just have a talk with you, and help you out a little bit." And it's been really interesting, but I just have to go back to it's completely orchestrated by God, completely.
Amen. Well, you guys have such a beautiful story, and I'm so grateful that God crossed our paths, and that you guys are doing so wonderfully. And so there's a question on Facebook. Someone is asking. He's asking if you did anything else besides chemotherapy, like diet-wise, supplements, etc.
Me or Hannah? Was it for me or Hannah?
I think it's for you, Chuck, but I'll clarify.
So I started down the regular path because how scary this is, and the doctors give you a plan, and everybody leans into that plan, and I was the same way, at least for the first few days, until God stepped in and said, "Hey, I got this. I got this." But what happened was I started on bone strengtheners. I started on blood thinners. I started on steroids. My face swelled up like a big balloon. I got some pictures from meeting my boys and going out to lunch for Father's Day, and I mean, I looked a mess. And then the plan after that was to start down the road with all the chemo. And so I did 6 months of chemo, and it was really tough because I felt pretty good. I was starting to walk, in the park. I was swimming a few laps in the pool. I was moving around. I started going to the gym, and even though I couldn't lift much, I would put the pin under one plate. And so up until towards the end of the chemo, I was still doing all the drugs because that's the doctor's plan. And I said, okay, how long do I need to stay on this bone strengthener? And my doctor said, the rest of your life. I go, wait a minute, have you seen the side effects in that thing? I said, I'm not taking that the rest of my life. She's looking at me like, well, Then I started finding out through family that was really close and in this whole mix that, Chuck, if she can keep you around another year or two, she's doing a good job. And that's her plan. And I said, well, I'm not the average dude, and I'm going to be around for the next 30 years. God told me on one of my walks, I'm not going to die of cancer.
Yeah.
And so I said, I went back the next visit and got the scan, and she started going through all my meds, and I go, take it off. Stop that one. Stop the blood thinner. Stop the bone strengthener. Stop the steroids. She goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm done with them. I don't like taking aspirin. I'm not going to take a drug if I don't have to. I took myself off of everything, and I don't tell cancer people to do that. That's got to be up to your own, I don't want somebody doing it and calling me going, dude, you told me to stop. And, it doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
I knew in my head that I was not going to die of cancer, and I wasn't going to stay on a bunch of meds that were just jacking me up. I was swimming 20 laps in the pool. And I mean, I'd get out of the pool, and the blood thinners had me all goofy just walking the path back to the apartment. Mm-hmm. It was that crazy. So, the thing is, when we talk to people about a game plan, I tell them that your doctor's game plan is half and your game plan is half. What that means is if don't rely on just your doctor, because it can be disappointing. Because if you get a scan and you go, oh, the tumors aren't shrinking.
Yeah.
Well, it just blew everything out of the water that your doctor gave. Give him 50%, and the other half is your game plan, which is prayer and love and juicing and essential oils and exercise and get off the couch and get up and live and all those beautiful things. Now you're starting to engage something in your brain. And on one of my walks one morning, God said, I gave you the mechanism in your brain to heal your entire body. People just don't engage it. They don't understand. They don't know. And what's the toughest group? What's the toughest group in the world to teach to turn on a healing mechanism? People diagnosed with cancer that are freaking out. They're stressed. They're worried.
Fear.
They're in a weird place. It takes them months to talk them off the ledge. And so, the thing is, if they get into their game plan also, and they say, we just went through this, they want to give her eight more shots of radiation in her neck, and
I'm already having swallowing problems.
And she couldn't swallow. And we're like, nope, we're done with that. We talked about it one night, and she said, I'm done with that. And I go,
I was so convinced, like in my heart, my soul, like this is not good for me right now.
She wasn't doing bad. She's fighting cancer. She's thriving through life, but she wasn't doing bad. And now she's got a feeding tube because of the radiation. We're done with that. So people have to be very intelligent. Ask your doctors tons of questions. Ask people. Get on the support groups. Get on the support groups and find out other people that have dealt with things that you're dealing with, because it's up to you. There's a ton of them. And I remember asking my doctor some questions, and she went, oh, that's a great question. Like, I'm not used to people asking me questions. Oh, I'm not used to dudes saying I'm done with my prescription meds. I'm going to stay on this until maybe the meds or the chemo kills me, but not the cancer.
Well, and I'm a really big advocate for people advocating for themselves. And I talk about this in my book, that actually, when I was like picking my plastic surgeon, or like anytime I switched because of insurance reasons, I had to switch oncologists. I was like, hi, I'm here to interview you. I actually interviewed 3 different doctors, and they were like, what?
I love it.
You work for me. Like, I want to.
Absolutely.
It was interesting, because I ended up going back to my original oncologist, because he was totally cool with me going to my IVs. And like, still to this day, he's so very, like, I told him I'm just not doing radiation right now, and he's like, okay. Like, he knew.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm very open with him about my faith, and I'm like, I'm not dying from this, just so you know. And he's like, okay.
Because of coronavirus, I can't go in and sit with her in her chemotherapy sessions. And then there's the days that the doc comes in and sees her while she's in there. Right. So we FaceTime. So So we FaceTime. So you can let the dogs out. So we FaceTime while I can see her through the window with her doctor sitting there in her radiation in her chemo chair. And the doctor's talking to her, and she looked at it and she goes, listen to me. I don't want a prognosis. I'm going to take care of that. Me and my walk with God, we're going to take care of that. And he starts laughing. He goes, okay. And then, and something that I think about often also, and I love this, and it goes back to the question that you ask about medications and things like that. I've been on stage talking to big groups of people and tell my story. And it's usually maybe a construction dude that carried around heavy stuff his whole life, and now he's having all kinds of back problems. Or somebody from the gym, they're like, I slipped a disc and I can't even breathe, and it's been this way for 3 months. And they go, what did you do for your back?
Wow.
I've never done anything for my back.
Surgery.
I've never had surgery.
Wow.
I've never, no pins, nothing in there to, strengthen it. I was touched by Jesus, and I was cured.
And then he did yoga and swam.
Started doing yoga and swimming and taking care of all this human stuff.
Yeah. That's something we both have been working on now too, is like we've been juicing since we met. We juiced before we met each other, so it's funny.
Yeah.
But that and exercise, which is really cool, because it might not go by myself right now, but to go together, it's awesome. So we got a tandem. So I found ways that I could, and our big funny story is he went and got me a wheelchair. So after my neck surgery, I had to wear a brace. And I was like, pretty fragile. I like to call myself a bruised banana.
So you guys can imagine what we're going through. Like I said, because I deal with cancer people, I'm watching her melt down, and I'm already an emotional mess. And she told me, she says, "Hey, we coach people every day, get up and live." And so I'm thinking of things that we can get up and live. So I borrow a wheelchair from a neighbor, and I have it outside, and I clean it all up. And I say, "Come outside, I want to show you something." She comes outside, she looks at the wheelchair, and she starts crying. And then we're both a mess. And I'm like, "Listen, if you don't get your butt in that wheelchair, how am I going to take you down the street and watch the sunset? How can we just get out and do things that we normally do?"
And the first time I got in it, we pushed me like a few feet. I was like, I can't do it. It's still too bumpy for my neck. So I listened to my body. The next time, I started healing and I got more
There's
stable.
only a couple times that I actually pushed her a couple miles. But after that, she's like, "I want to walk a little bit." And then I'd put her back in the chair, and so I'm
I
pushing
lost so much muscle mass.
Hannah in a wheelchair. 2 weeks later, we made a plan to go out to Orange County, Southern California, to ride bikes on the beach. So she's like, "Okay, I got a goal. I need to be riding the bike by the time we get there."
That's awesome.
I want to be able to ride 6 miles. So that was my goal. Every day I'd add a mile, or every 2 days, depending on.
We set a goal. And so she puts a picture on social media. 2 weeks ago, I was in a wheelchair, and I just rode 4 miles on this bicycle.
Wow, that is
And that's
so
what for me,
amazing.
That's what I want to talk about. It's like
Get up and
you
live.
have to find the exercise that works for you. Like it's easier for me to bike than to walk,
Right.
So I kind of intermingle them. So I keep using all my muscles, but that was the way I could build up my muscle mass faster too.
And another thing is, people watching this that say, "Well, that's, you went to the gym, and even though you put one plate in, you still were at the gym." I just had surgery. I'm not going to the gym. I deal with a lot of people that had surgery for their cancer. The thing is, we completely understand that, and moving the exercise, when we say our 5 rules and we say move the body, it doesn't mean go to the gym. It doesn't mean go to a yoga class. It means move the body. The human body is designed to move and heal. So it might be laying on your living room floor, turning on your laptop or your smart TV, and just typing in a controlled breathing class, a sound healing class, a stretching class. That might be your type of movement for the next couple months until you get to the point where you're like, "Hey, I feel pretty good today." Yoga for beginners. It's a gradual thing. And I would never send anybody out there and say, "Hey, Chuck swam 20 laps in the pool. You should be doing that too." That doesn't make sense, because Chuck started out the first week in the pool just getting in, and it felt so good because it was taking the weight off of my body and moving my arms and moving around and going, "Man, I wonder if I could swim a lap." And I made it a lap, and I celebrated. And by the end of that week, I was swimming 10 laps. And the end of the next week, I was up to 20 laps a day. Baby steps, everything, baby steps.
Yeah, for me, I couldn't move my neck because I had neck surgery, but I looking at my chicken legs. I was like, I can lift my legs up and start flexing, and I just worked my way up, So before I even went outside to walk, I was doing those things just to strengthen my muscles and get them moving again. And so you have to build up, and you have to set goals.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh, people are loving your stories on Facebook. And the question about the supplements was for both of you. So Hannah, you said you did, well, this was, beforehand
IV.
you did the
I used to do IV. Now I don't do vitamin C, but I still have my IV girl come once a week, and she does other stuff that does not interfere with chemo. So it's usually minerals, or one thing I take is alpha-lipoic acid, because that helps you not get neuropathy. So that's one of the side effects that I could potentially get with chemo. So there's just stuff I do just to add extra into my life.
And if you guys are around anybody that's been around cancer, my chemo kicked my butt. I mean, I would go in there and get a chemo treatment, 3 hours of drip into my port, little guy that's no longer there. It's just a scar. But I'd go in and get my 3 hours of drip. And then I would go home, and the next day and maybe 2 days, make dinner for my boys, do a few things around the house. And by the third day, I couldn't even get out of bed. I'm not kidding you. I had my walking shoes, and they're no tie, just slip in and go by my bed. I put them on, and sometimes I didn't make it to the doorway. I got back to the bed and slept for 5 hours. My chemo kicked my but, and I know there's a lot of different chemos. I know there's a lot of different body makeups. So a lot of people ask me about chemo, and I said, I don't know, but I do want to talk to you the day after, 3 days after, 5 days after, because then I can relate to what you're going through. And I love it when I talk to somebody, or I love it when my wife is going through chemo and looks this darn good while she's going through chemo right now.
Makeup and a tan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And I mean, my chemo doesn't make me nauseous. It makes other people nauseous. Doesn't make me nauseous. And right now, like day 2 and a little bit day 3, I have no energy, but I still do stuff. Just like I feel sapped.
She says a
But I
little
don't
bit of
sleep.
energy drain. I don't,
I'm just
go,
tired.
I'll clean the house. I'll do dishes. I'll cook dinner. But I mean, she's still a rock star.
We do a lot together. I get him to grill. Yeah. So I'm learning my limits, and it's just, as I'm on it longer, like I'm in my 3rd cycle now, so we'll see how it goes. But
Yeah.
I do live one day at a time.
And just, just to talk about faith again, like I said, I know a lot about cancer. I've been around it for the last 5 years. I work with a lot of people all over the world. I'm watching my wife melt down, and you start thinking about it, what if this is a short journey for Hannah? And I was a mess. I was an absolute mess. And she had her faith like skin. And I'm watching her, and I'm talking to God, and I said, it's an absolute complete test of my faith. To have trust in him, his plan for her. And we went to California last week. We went to Flagstaff and played, got out of the heat. I encourage people going through cancer and other challenges in life, don't cancel that vacation you had planned, next month. Do things, because one of the stories I love to tell to my cancer people is the stories that I've heard so many times. I'm not kidding if I probably heard this 50 times now. Hey Chuck, I was diagnosed with cancer. I was told I had a year to live 15 years ago. Think about it, guys. Think about it. Yeah. And everybody that shuts down and stays on the couch or in their bed and decides not to get up and live and to melt away. The thing is, what we don't know God's plan. And, we were talking about modern medicine and the doctors and, not giving them everything because in case, it's the chemo's not working or the radiation's not working and it's still spreading. You can't give them that 50, you got to give them 50%, give yourself 50%. And that part of that 50% starts with prayer. It starts with prayer. And I'm telling you what, for anybody watching this or anybody that might see this over the next couple months, I'm not kidding you guys. It's tough. It's tough to go through a challenge like cancer. It's tough to go through a challenge like coronavirus. What's going to happen out there? Should I wear my mask? Should I not? Can I go out of the house? It's tough to go through these things without faith. I don't know how people do it. What do you do when you're laying in a hospital bed looking at the ceiling and you're down 40 pounds and you know God brought us into this world. God takes us out. He is completely in control. It's a complete test of your faith.
Amen. Yeah. Well, that's a great way to end it. I want to be respectful of your time and just thank you so much. You have so much going on, and I'm honored that you took time to be with us tonight. So how can we pray for you? How can people pray for you?
Of course, complete healing for Hannah. And also we continue to pray for guidance with our nonprofit, dealing with cancer people and ways we've been thinking about maybe a camper van where we could get around the country but not have to sleep at someone's house, but we can still be in their life. Yeah, we call it Office on Wheels. We've had discussions about our bigger goals, which would be a cancer camp where cancer people can come to us and we can coach them on, prayer and living and juicing and all these amazing things and send them home, with a vision in their head about life after cancer. But these things cost big bucks. And so we pray for, guidance and strength and let us see your plan and we will continue to go in that direction.
Yeah, we
So-
have a website. I don't know if you can drop a link
Yeah,
somehow or anything.
absolutely.
But, that's
Yeah.
a great tool that we've built that has a lot of information, ways to reach out to us, and just chock full of everything that we talk about. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it has your books on it, the website.
yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has our books. The thing about the books, here's the catch, guys.
Mhm.
If you want a signed copy, okay, which costs like a couple bucks more than a one off of Amazon, you've got to find us on Messenger. You've got to find us on Facebook. You've got to find us somehow,
Living Hope Cancer
and
Foundation.
go on Living Hope Cancer Foundation on our
Email.
website. There's a connection there. You've got to contact us and say we want a signed copy, because signed copies come from us. We sign them, we drop them in the mail, you get them in a few days. If you go on Amazon, you can definitely get one, but it won't have our signature and the fact that God put you in our path, which we absolutely love. So, hi, I'm Chuck. Faith Like Skin are on Amazon and on our website. And like Hannah said, the website's so full of tools and information and amazing things, all based on our personal experiences with cancer. Okay. But I've got a lot of people who don't have cancer that are on there watching things and juicing and doing things I've got on there. And they're like, you know what? I don't have cancer. And I love following you guys. And what we found out is really that little card that said cancer coach. It's not true. We're just coaches.
Yeah.
We're just
Life-
life
lifestyle
coaches.
coach, Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to be better, healthier.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's easier to prevent cancer than to heal from it. So
Yeah.
that's important too.
Sure.
We don't want to end up, please don't end up in that place where we all ended up. Do what you can to prevent it.
Absolutely.
So-
And you know what? The thing is also, we helped with another book. I read a little bit.
Oh, yes. That's another thing I was
Okay, got it.
thought of and I forgot it. Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, a close friend of mine, Court Davies, worked on it with a group that they came up with a book with habits to help you get through your cancer. And it's called One Habit to Beat Cancer. But he got 50 people. And so Hannah, me, and Bailey are all in this book. So that's how we met. As I read Bailey's story, and I was like, I want to meet this person because I love her walk and her faith through her journey. And so along with the prayer for us and for Hannah's healing and for our organization, I definitely want to add in a prayer for Bailey as a young person that's been through challenges, that God has a plan for you that is so beautiful and so amazing that when you look back a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, you're going to be like, man, I didn't see this coming. And this is what's happening to us. And I see this starting to mature for you as well. And I want to pray for God's plan for you to be as beautiful and as amazing and is a big bless so many people, and the blessings come right back to you, Bailey. So I want to pray for you as well.
Thank you. That's so touching. Thank you. Yeah. One of my love languages is words of encouragement. So that means means a great deal for me. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And a great husband.
Oh, thank you. Well, I love you both, and I'm so grateful for you. The world is so blessed by you. So keep up your amazing, incredible work and your faith, which leads to all those things. And have a beautiful night. And I will see you guys soon.
Okay.
Let's do another one of these soon. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes. I would love that. And thank you
All right.
everyone for joining us live. And for those who are watching the recording, have a blessed day.
God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Take
Bye.
care.
Love you, Bailey.
Love you too. Bye-bye.